Monopoly is one of the most popular board games of all time. The game is instantly recognizable and is the gold standard for starting family arguments and isolating your best friends. While luck is a factor, Monopoly is a game that can be routinely won with good strategy. In this video, we will break down how to always win Monopoly. There are many variables that go into a game of Monopoly, and chance is definitely a key factor in the game. However, like the house at a casino, you can scale the odds in your favor to ensure that you come out on top. First, we need to understand the layout of the board. The easiest way to understand the board is to cut the board diagonally as such and refer to the two halves as the go side and the jail side. The spaces on the board are wildly unequal in regards to the odds of landing on them. However, you don't need to memorize each space or the odds of landing there. You just need to know that jail is number 1. This means the jail side of the board carries a higher likelihood of players being there at any given time. Likewise, the go to jail spot will take anyone who lands on it back to jail, further lowering the likelihood of players making it to the following spaces on the go side of the board. Also, there are a limited amount of chance and community chest cards that will send you to predetermined spots on the board. The only 3 spots that can break the bank with an unlucky draw are St. Charles Place, Illinois Avenue, and Boardwalk. If you're playing the game as intended, with auctions and without house rules, you should reasonably expect these cards to come up only once in a game. All 3 of these cards come from the chance pile, and it is a good idea to keep tabs on which ones have been drawn, because it might make sense to either acquire these properties or avoid trading away these properties depending on how the chance cards play out. Also note, the go back 3 spaces card can send you to 1 of 3 spaces, one of which is New York Avenue. Next, we need to use dice to our advantage. Monopoly uses 2 dice, meaning that statistically rolling 7 in each combination close to 7 will be most likely, with the minimum of 2 and the maximum of 12 being least likely. Each side of the board also contains 10 spots. We can use these factors to create a simplistic rule of thumb. At any time, any turn, and for any player, we can assume a player will likely roll a 6 through a 9, since there is a 55% chance of these 4 rolls happening, and that with an average roll of 7, it will take roughly 3 turns for a player to roll past 2 sides of the board. Using this rule of thumb, we can decide on the type of offensive and defensive risks we are willing to take on any given turn. The main source of risk in terms of your internal decision making is deciding how many houses to have and when. To build houses, first you will need a monopoly, which we'll get to in a moment. Since a game of Monopoly will effectively turn into a stalemate without any monopolies, it is safe to assume even the most stubborn of players will eventually decide to trade. On almost every property set, we will find a mathematical phenomenon. 3 houses is the sweet spot for return on investment. This doesn't mean 3 houses is always the best course of action, but with regards to balance in the game, we will find that having less than 3 houses is not particularly powerful, and having more than 3 houses might not be a good use of our resources. This is because of a key fundamental with the houses. Resale value of the houses is only 50%, meaning a $100 house sold returns only $50. While we might be unlucky and have to pay various rents or fees across the board, there is no other such brazen poor money management as to sell your houses. This means, if you expect to win the game, you should expect to never sell your houses. Therefore, we should only place houses at a time, and to an extent that we believe our opponent will land on them, and we won't be charged with a rent large enough to force us to sell them. This is obviously case by case, but we can return to our dice rule of thumb and assume when your opponent is close to 6 to 9 spaces from your monopolies, it is the time to strike. And if your opponent is less than 3 rolls from your spots, it might be a good time to buy houses, while if they are further, it might make sense to wait. Jail is the most likely spot to be on the board, so it is not surprising that the spots 6 to 9 spots away, the orange property set, is the most useful property set to own. This doesn't necessarily mean you need to own it. The best monopoly to own is to have the only monopoly on the board. Also, a monopoly without houses isn't very powerful. Our objective is to form a monopoly with 3 houses on the jail side of the board as quickly as possible while maintaining enough of a financial buffer that we never have to sell any houses. However, this isn't the end-all strategy. The light blues very early in the game, or the greens or dark blues, if they are the only monopolies available, are fine strategies, as the light blues can quickly give you a leg up for cheap, and the far side of the board can wipe out a player in a single turn. But the core trading strategy should be to put ourselves in the position to own the only monopoly on the jail side of the board that can reach 3 houses. We can also block others from owning any of the other jail side monopolies by owning parts of the other color sets so they can't complete the monopoly. It is okay to trade another player a key piece to one of these monopolies, but only if they are not in a position to build 3 houses, which is $700 to $900 on this row, or $1,050 to $1,300 on this row. Keep in mind, a player might have more money than cash, because they might have properties they can mortgage, so allowing a player a monopoly is a risk that should only be taken if they don't have the means to build 3 houses, because if they reach 3 houses, your gamble could backfire. The reds and yellows require significantly more money to develop houses, so while they are more dangerous if they are developed, we can be a little more lax in giving up these monopolies in a trade if the other player is low on cash. If we pull all of our strategies together from the onset of the game, we will want to acquire as many properties on the jail side of the board as possible with a focus on orange. If we own at least 1 orange, we will either be able to control this monopoly or prevent others from owning it. Next, we will want to form the first monopoly with 3 houses. If possible, we want to avoid trading punches, so it is better to have the only monopoly, even if it is inferior, rather than a better monopoly that has to compete against someone else's monopoly. You should build your houses in respect to where you and others are on the board, so if a player likely can't land on your monopoly in 3 turns or less, wait to build your houses. And if there are 6 to 9 spaces away, it is okay to be more aggressive in building houses. And if everyone is preventing everyone else from having a monopoly, buy trains.